Have you ever felt the shift? That strange silence in the room when you begin to evolve? It's subtle. No one says anything directly. They won't confront you outright. Instead, they make little jokes, offer friendly concern, or just go quiet the moment you speak from a deeper place. What's really happening is simple. Your growth unsettles them. Your clarity makes them question their haze. And people would rather stay numb than wake up. Maybe this is happening to you now. You're beginning to think in ways that don't fit the script. You act on instincts that used to be buried. You question things that once felt sacred. And suddenly, the people closest to you seem distant. They don't understand it. So they label you too intense, too distant, too much. But here's the truth they won't say aloud. You are changing. And your transformation is forcing them to face what they've been avoiding. This is the unspoken cost of a real mind. A mind that no longer seeks comfort. A mind that sees through the noise. A mind that exposes weakness simply by refusing to hide its strength. Why does this happen? Because a mind that stands on its own shakes the foundations of mediocrity. A person who chooses truth over imitation becomes dangerous. Nietzsche knew. He didn't whisper it, he warned us plainly. The moment you stop living by borrowed beliefs, the moment you begin shaping your own values, you become a threat. To the herd, to the system, to the version of you that used to settle for less. This is not a video for those seeking reassurance. This is not comfort food. This is a flare shot into the sky. A call to rise. So if you feel ready for this path, a lonely, tough, but absolutely transformative path, stay. Because what Nietzsche has to teach you will confront you, but it can also set you free. And after this, you will never think the same way again. Most people think of Nietzsche as just a philosopher, but he was far more than that. He was a man willing to stare into the darkest corners of human existence, into the chaos, the doubt, the pain that others avoid, and not only face it, but walk into it without blinking. And in that chaos, in that raw and brutal disorder, he discovered something essential. Strength is not found in comfort. It is forged in collapse. He once wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." That's not poetic flair. It's a diagnosis, a warning, a challenge. If you want to become something powerful, something unshakable, you have to let go of the fantasy that it happens through peace. It doesn't. It happens in the fall, in the crisis, in the silence after everything has broken. Think back. When did you actually grow? Was it during the calm seasons of life? Or was it in the wreckage? When you were confused, undone, stripped of direction, and forced to rebuild piece by piece? Nietzsche understood that suffering wasn't some tragic flaw in life. It was the engine behind transformation. He didn't worship pain, but he didn't fear it either. He saw it as a necessary tool. If you can learn to stop recoiling from discomfort, if you can confront failure, loneliness, rejection, those very forces will start to shape you. Not gently, not softly, but permanently. And that's when people start to notice you, not because you're louder, but because you're different. While most are hiding from the storm, you're walking through it. While they wait for stability, you are drawing greatness out of the wreckage. But to make that shift, you have to abandon every lie you've been told about strength. It isn't about staying composed when you're falling apart. It isn't about pretending to be fine. Real strength is what emerges when you've been to the edge and refuse to break. When your silence carries more power than someone else's rage. Still, Nietzsche didn't stop there. Because chaos, on its own, can either forge you or consume you. And that's why, in the next part, we'll step into one of the most haunting, most liberating ideas Nietzsche ever gave the world. The death of God. The moment he took away every external meaning and placed the full weight of existence in your hands. Because once there is nothing above you to appeal to, the only place left to build meaning is within yourself. When Nietzsche declared that God is dead, he wasn't rejoicing. He wasn't mocking faith. He was delivering a confrontation that most people still aren't ready to face. He wasn't attacking a divine being. He was dismantling the illusion that someone else is running the show, that there's a grand plan, that life is meaningful because it's been assigned that way by something above. What he killed was comfort. The comfort of believing that your suffering serves some invisible higher purpose. The comfort of deferring responsibility to the sky. He stripped that all away. And in doing so, he handed you something terrifying: ownership. He looked straight at the modern soul and said, "You are on your own. There are no maps, no more excuses, no built-in meaning waiting to be found. You are not following a story, you are writing it." And that is where the foundation of a powerful mind begins to form. Because most people collapse under that weight. They freeze at the edge of uncertainty, panicked by the absence of guidance. But the few who dare to stand there, who accept that life offers no guarantees, no absolution, no cosmic backup plan, those are the ones who begin to build something that cannot be broken. Nietzsche didn't offer shelter. He offered liberation, brutal, raw autonomy. You're not here to obey. You're here to overcome. You're not here to be told what's right. You're here to decide what's necessary. The burden is yours now, and so is the freedom, because when you finally understand that no one is coming to rescue you, something primal awakens. A force that refuses to kneel. A clarity that doesn't ask for permission. A fire that moves even when you're wounded. This is where Nietzsche clears the ground for something even more radical. A new kind of human being. One who doesn't blend into the herd. One who doesn't chase approval. One who doesn't beg for meaning, but invents it. A person who refuses to be shaped by the world, and instead begins to shape the world by becoming a creator. A force, a mirror that terrifies the passive because it reflects what they lack. Nietzsche had a name for this rare type of soul. He called it the Übermensch, the Overman. And if your goal is to build a mind so strong it cannot be manipulated, so rooted it cannot be moved, then you must understand how this being thinks, lives, and rises. If this is resonating with you, don't just keep watching. Prove to yourself that you're not here by accident. Hit the like button and comment. I rise by breaking what once held me, not for vanity, but as a declaration. Because becoming unshakable starts the moment you stop watching passively and start claiming who you're becoming. Nietzsche didn't place his faith in slow evolution or incremental progress. He believed in rupture, in burning down what no longer serves, in tearing apart illusions so something new, something radical can be born. That's where the idea of the Übermensch comes in. Not a myth, not a comic book savior. The Übermensch is not about strength in the way the world defines it. He isn't powerful because others follow him. He's powerful because he no longer follows anyone. He's broken the chains that still bind the ordinary man. Shame, obedience, fear of rejection. He doesn't crave validation. He doesn't look around before speaking. He doesn't wait for permission to exist. That's why his mind cannot be broken. It isn't built from borrowed beliefs. It doesn't lean on applause. It is rooted in one thing only, the will to power. The inner force to shape meaning, not find it. To carve identity, not inherit it. To stand in front of the world and say, I am not here to fit in. I am here to forge. This is the turning point. The Übermensch does not adjust himself to what already is. He doesn't compromise to survive. He creates something higher and demands that reality rise to meet him. He doesn't ask, is this allowed? He asks, is this true to who I am becoming? That one question flips the entire world upside down. Because once you see yourself as a creator, not a follower, not a consumer, not a disciple, your entire life takes a different shape. But make no mistake, this transformation will cost you. You will have to cut loose the parts of yourself that still beg to belong. You will feel the sting of being misunderstood. You'll wrestle with the silence that comes when you stop waiting for the crowd to approve what you're becoming. There are no guarantees on this path. No comfort. No map. Just you building something sacred from within while the world tells you to stop. And that's why most people don't make it. They retreat before the first real test. They run back to the warm arms of tradition, of easy answers, of borrowed purpose. They choose safety over selfhood. But Nietzsche didn't, and neither will you if you're ready to rise. He knew this path would isolate him. He knew truth often walks alone. He was mocked, rejected, dismissed, but in that exile he discovered something few ever do: absolute freedom. And this is the paradox. As your mind gets stronger, your circle gets smaller. The more you break away from the crowd, the louder your silence becomes. The more you rise, the more you unsettle. That's not failure. That's proof you're on the right path. The journey toward the Übermensch is not some aesthetic change. It's a demolition, a violent removal of every script you were handed, a destruction of the lies that shaped your personality. It's not easy. It's not meant to be. But only in that wreckage can something real begin to form, not in the noise of the crowd, but in the sacred quiet where the strong are born. And that's where we're headed next. The most overlooked, most essential part of this path, the solitude of the strong. Because if you truly want to become unshakable, you must learn to walk alone. The question is, will you? When you start to rise above the average, you become a mirror. And not everyone likes what they see in it. The moment your life begins to reflect discipline, self-possession, or inner clarity, the people around you will start to feel exposed. Not because you say anything, but because your existence begins to challenge theirs. This is the danger of collective mediocrity. It survives by agreement. Everyone quietly agrees to avoid hard questions, to settle, to stay numb, to hide in the safety of the group. And anyone who disrupts that balance becomes a threat. You've probably felt it already. The subtle pushback, the comments that sound like concern but are really discomfort, the way they downplay your growth, question your intentions, mock your seriousness. It's not personal, it's protective. Because if your rise is real, it means they have to face the reality of their own stagnation. Nietzsche understood this dynamic deeply. He knew that when a mind begins to think independently, when it detaches from the need for social permission, it will unsettle those who are still governed by it. And that's why he warned, do not expect applause when you choose the higher path. Expect resistance, because mediocrity is not just a state of being. It is a culture, a system, a silent contract between people who have agreed not to grow. And your presence, if it's grounded and true, will start to feel like a violation of that contract. But this is the paradox. If you want to build a mind that terrifies, you must accept that it will first disturb. You cannot chase strength and comfort at the same time. You cannot lead and still be embraced by the crowd. You cannot carry truth and be welcomed by those who are addicted to lies. So the question becomes, what matters more to you? Acceptance or authenticity? Because if it's authenticity, then you must be willing to walk into the fire of judgment, of misunderstanding, of distance. And not just walk into it, but remain untouched by it. That's the true test. Not just the ability to break free from mediocrity, but the strength to keep moving forward when mediocrity starts coming after you. And that brings us to the next crucial chapter of this path: the war between the inner and the outer. Because once you stop being shaped by the world will try to shape itself against you. And if you're not rooted, if you don't understand how to stay inwardly grounded, you will be pulled right back into what you escaped. So next, we explore that battle, the tension between who you are and who the world demands you to be. Nietzsche did not waste his warnings on tyrants. He reserved his sharpest critiques for something far more subtle, far more insidious: the quiet pressure of the crowd. What he feared most was not the hand of a dictator, but the slow suffocation of collective mediocrity, a system that does not need chains, because it works through approval and shame. This is how conformity works. It doesn't punish you with violence. It punishes you with silence, with isolation, with subtle mockery. The moment you begin to rise, you disrupt the unspoken agreement. Stay small, stay predictable, stay agreeable. And so they come not to destroy you directly, but to wear you down, to make you question yourself, to bring you back. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He called it slave morality, a moral system born not from strength but from resentment. In this system, real virtues are flipped upside down. Power becomes cruelty. Confidence becomes arrogance. Independence becomes selfishness. Greatness becomes dangerous. Why? Because when people cannot rise, they redefine the height as evil. It is not about ethics. It is about comfort. And anyone who stands too tall becomes a threat, not just to the system, but to the self-image of those still trapped in it. So when your mind starts to sharpen, when your words carry weight, when your silence becomes loud, you will notice the tension. People will smile less. Conversations will grow colder. Some will challenge you outright. Others will just fade away. And it's easy to mistake this for your failure. But it's not failure. It's friction. And that friction is proof that you've stopped blending in. Mediocrity doesn't attack with truth. It attacks with consensus. It piles on until your resistance wears thin. Until you begin to wonder if the discomfort is worth it. Until you ask yourself if maybe it would be easier to go back. And this is where most people fall. Not because they are weak, but because they are not ready to be misread, misunderstood, mischaracterized. They still need to be liked. But Nietzsche would argue, your role is not to be liked. Your role is to be necessary. In a world drowning in imitation, it is the genuine individual who becomes the rupture, the discomfort, the spark. So when the pressure rises, when the looks turn to whispers and the whispers to distance, remember this: you are not being rejected because you are wrong. You are being resisted because you are different. And in a culture addicted to sameness, difference is the greatest threat of all. Being different isn't just a personality trait. It's a threat, a disruption. And when you start to live with strength, with clarity, with independence, you'll notice something shift around you. The world stops clapping. It starts pushing back. Because your growth doesn't just elevate you. It exposes everything around you that refuses to rise. That's why being mentally strong isn't just empowering. It's an act of rebellion. You become a quiet insurgent in a culture built on conformity. And like every rebellion, it demands preparation. But not of the body, of the mind. Because the weapons you'll need are not physical. They are internal. Awareness, resilience, self-possession. And that leads us here into the final part. The cost and the reward of building a mind that cannot be shaken. Because yes, there's a price. But what you gain can't be taken, bought, or borrowed. If you've made it this far, that already puts you in rare company. Most people would have clicked away minutes ago. The second it got uncomfortable. The moment it stopped sounding like affirmation and started sounding like a mirror. But you stayed. You listened. That matters. Because this is not a feel-good message. It's a wake-up call. And those don't come dressed in comfort. Building an unbreakable mind isn't about adding more. It's about giving things up. You'll lose friendships that were built on performance. You'll walk away from roles that require obedience. You'll lose the ability to lie to yourself just to stay comfortable. But what you gain: clarity, peace, presence. A kind of grounded power that doesn't flinch under pressure. You'll start to see how many people are sleepwalking through life. And you'll realize your stillness, your honesty, your boundaries rattle people more than shouting ever could. This kind of strength doesn't come from a book. You can't repeat a quote and expect it to hold. It has to be lived, carved out in silence, forged in private, built slowly in the choices you make when no one is watching. And here's what most never understand. The strongest people aren't the ones who feel invincible. They're the ones who keep going even when they're exhausted, even when no one claps, even when everything inside them says stop and they don't. Nietzsche didn't want followers. He wanted you to wake up, to stop moving like a shadow through your own life. He wanted you to become dangerous, not loud, not hostile, but unshakable. The kind of dangerous that makes people pause when you walk into a room, not because of what you say, but because of what you no longer need to. So here's your quiet challenge. Drop this in the comments. I choose the path that sharpens me, and like this video, not for me, not for numbers, but as your silent way of saying, I'm ready. And if something in this hit you, don't scroll past it. Subscribe. Because this is not just a channel. This is a journey.